All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Living with Lisa, and I am here with Dr. Scott Keller and our special guest from Idaho, Linda. How you doing, Dr. Scott?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me on with you tonight, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I love what you do. I'm so excited for you to tell our guests what you're going to be doing. I've had the experience myself, and I loved it. And Linda, how are you?
Great. Thank you.
Good. We're really excited that you joined us. I think you're going to really enjoy Dr. Keller's amazing. I know his family. So his mother's a famous psychic. I work with his sister, Lane. She's magnificent and amazing. And I've told them many times, his mother and his sister, if you could just adopt me, I would change my last name to Keller. So they're a brilliant, gifted family. And I love working with them. So Scott, can you tell us, what are we going to do today?
Well, first thing is, I thought what we would do is just develop a very quick and simple foundation for understanding how astrology and Ayurveda are connected. It's been said that astrology is the imprint of all our personalities and characteristics, and Ayurveda, or Ayurvedic medicine, is the energy with which we present and experience those energies on an hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis.
Oh, good. I love that you mix. So Ayurvedic is like an East Indian type. That's how they do their medicine, right?
Absolutely.
The East Indian cultures.
Astrology and Ayurveda were created by the ancient Vedics from India over 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. Much of the world's natural medicines and astrology, which acts as a diagnostic tool, was derived from Ayurveda. And that includes traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Japanese medicine, Nepali medicine, traditional Tibetan medicine. It all started by the Vedics, who were at a much more advanced and developed level than we are now, much more connected to the universal energy, not just intuitively, but on a whole developmental level. It was part of what the yogis considered the descending cycle from perfection, which we can explain at another date, but suffice it to say for now, Lisa, it's just that they were in a much more deeply connected universal place with all matter and issues of etheric non-matter as well.
Oh, I love that. As you know, I'm a wellness person, and I love that they've been doing this for thousands of years. And here in America, it's all fairly new. So I love having the experience of people that are wise and know, worked from the earth and herbs. And even I love like the medicine wheel for Native Americans and everything and I actually see an acupuncturist who's Chinese. I have two, one in New York and one here. And I think you do this, Scott. You actually can feel someone's pulse and kind of know what's going on with them, right?
Absolutely. In Ayurvedic medicine, we can use a 3-point pulse system where we check for women on the left arm and men on the right arm to see which of the three energies is predominant. You know, the concept, Lisa, behind Ayurveda is to evaluate that each of us, of the 8.2 billion people on the planet, has a combination of these three energies. They're called Pitta, Vata, and Kapha, but for the sake of making things simple, because my concept is to take these complicated concepts from India and make them very Americanized for the American palate and for utilization here in this Western part of the world. So we can just simply, I have a little PowerPoint, but it's not entered in here. You can see pictures that we use to label each of the personalities. So for instance, the Pitta person, and I don't know if you can see this picture, it's a little emoji of me, and you are predominantly Pitta also. There's the quintessential picture of the type A personality, multitasking, very, very efficient, a little bit stressed out when they're out of balance.
I think that represents you and I both, Scott, yes.
Absolutely. But don't forget, Lisa, you're a Leo sun, and you're rising Scorpio, and Mercury Leo, and Venus Leo. You got a lot of fire on me, kiddo. Here's the second type. It's called Vata. These people are represented by certain signs in certain areas in our birth chart. This is the ultimate link between astrology and Ayurveda, which we're going to discuss in a little while. Now, this type 2 person is the more etheric, the more spiritual, the more universally connected mindset and body type. These are the type of people that you see waiting outside a yoga class with dreadlocks and very skinny body, very thin bodies, very slight bone structure, thin wrists, narrow body, and they live on quinoa and haven't eaten meat in 20 years. We know these people. So they're prone to imbalances just like Pitta. And then the final type, my personal favorite, is what's called kapha, or the very relaxed, slow, enduring type. We love these people because, Lisa, you and I need more of these people in our lives. We don't like to use the word need, but we welcome them because with our high overachieving type A mentality, we like to bring people around us who are calm, relaxed, and gentle. I can see Linda already has a lot of kapha energy. It's my personal, and so we know that when we look at your chart, Linda, which we already have, you're going to have a number of kapha type of planet signs in certain planets. What are those kapha relaxed signs? Signs like Taurus, signs like Pisces, Cancer. Lisa and I have, and don't get me wrong, Linda, you have a lot of Pitta in your chart too, because you have a lot of Leo. I just looked at it a few minutes ago, but I'm going to go back into this computer. So now you have the basics of the 3 Ayurvedic types. And we try to cartoon it up a little bit to make people understand it a little bit easier. You got the Pitta, the type A, stressed out, overachieving, the metaphysician, the Vedic yogi, which when they fall out of balance, they're prone to digestive disorders. And then the slow kapha moving type, which is prone to their own version of disorders, something like we see thyroid issues with them, or weight gain, or issues of inertia problems and depression. So every type, whatever your predominant type is, has good elements, and if you fall out of balance, has things we need to balance back only to the good.
I agree with you 100%. I like the third one because for me, and I'm sure for you, it's that balance, right? We love the people that you know, we bring them maybe a little bit of excitement or flair and maybe more motivation, so to speak, and they bring us calm, and we need that. I love when I meet those people. It's a good balance.
What? You know what's great about that is the kapha really does well with the Pitta person because they would be slow and gaining weight and depressed. We have a little chart here that shows some of the characteristics of each of them. And I don't know if it's too small to show on camera, but if we have any questions, we'll explain it. It's a little small, but it's a great little chart. It talks about general characteristics and what happens when the Pitta person is perfectly in balance. Like the Pitta person, when in balance, is very competent, very efficient, very able to multitask, get stuff done. They typically have a 1st to 5th type of mentality. So we're usually in 5th gear, but when we stop, we usually pass out.
I can so relate. Scott, it's like you know me, you know, you never met me in person.
I got your whole chart.
You know my soul. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how did you get here? Like, how long have you been doing this? A little bit about Scott.
Okay, so thank you. You know, I was raised, you know, my family, we were raised basically in an ashram by a very progressive mother who was progressive in all areas of the healing arts. She had her own exercise show growing up. We were always on the show. We were always surrounded by metaphysics. And me being a quadruple Pisces, I went into natural healing. And of course, I ended up, you know, going to med school and then chiropractic college. And then I ended up opening up a practice at the Edgar Cayce Foundation, which I'm sure many of your listeners know who Cayce was. He's our modern day Nostradamus, one of the most prolific and well-known modern day intuitives. And he did 22,000 life readings. And in those readings, he helped people with seemingly incurable disorders. He had many celebrities like Clark Gable and Woodrow Wilson, I believe, came to see him, people who were really of tremendous notoriety. And Cayce went into that state of intuitive sleep. He's known as the sleeping prophet, and he read them and he figured out, he pulled information from the universal cord of information from the universe, and you know, he channeled all this amazing information. Well, I have been there continuing his work at the ARE, it's the Association of Research and Enlightenment in Manhattan, right on 30th Street for the last 28 years before I moved down here to Florida. And I've been continuing that work, but incorporating, as I'm a second generation medical intuitive, I incorporated something that I feel is one of the most amazingly impressive diagnostic statements that you'll ever hear probably. I just said it to Carol a little while ago. I went to 9 years of medical and chiropractic training and 30 years of continuing education with 2 more diplomates in the areas of kinesiology and nutrition. I get more diagnostic information from a person's birth chart and their Ayurvedic profile in 15 minutes than I do from 30 years of that experience. And the reason why is because the ancient Vedics were in a very intuitive place and they knew how to do this efficiently. through evaluation of your birth natal chart and pulses.
I love your experience. I just wish I could have been in your pocket going with you to all that stuff. I'm so amazed, and it's so much fun. I love what you do. It's just, I can tell by looking at Linda, she's excited. This is fun stuff. Linda, you're one of us, I feel. I really feel you're one of us. So I'm excited. Okay, so that's exciting. So, well, Scott, I don't even know. Do you want to jump into Linda a little bit, or what do you want to do next?
Let's continue with the questions that we wanted to go over, just so we can get a little bit of a foundation. We created a little foundation about Ayurveda.
Mm-hmm.
Let's discuss really quickly why, how is my process unique? Well, I think
Yes.
people picked out already that we use very advanced and very quick diagnostic skills to be able to understand a person's health state and their relationship status and their state of affairs with their, their love and romance. We talked a little bit about this with you. Also, we can predict a little bit of karmic direction and career path using the chart. So what's unique about this is that you get to, through my process, we get to tap into 30 years of clinical westernized medical experience with an ancient art form that was designed to be infinitely more practical and insightful than even our modern clinical approach. So,
and not many people do what you do, from what I can gather.
No one. You can go online and try to find a medical intuitive, an astrologer, and an Ayurvedic specialist. That no one exists. It's only me right now. But there are other people doing it. A version of astrology with a small. There's in fact one girl out in the Midwest who's made the connection between your astrology, your chart, your birth natal chart, and how you're expressing Ayurvedic energies. I don't know what happened here, but all we can surmise is that over the course of history, we've lost records through wars and all kinds of floods and all kinds of stuff that lost ancient scriptures on coordinating these two things. Now, I'll give you an example. Lisa, let's look at your chart. You have a sun's, each of these planets, I'm going to pull up a quick little picture and you tell me if you can see it, and if you can, great, and if you can't, I'll ditch it. But let me show you something. I just had this pulled up a moment ago. Here is a picture of the planets. Can you all see that?
Yep.
See the sun, and then next to the sun is Mercury, and then Venus, and then that next little blue globe is the Earth. Well, at the moment that we're born and the doctor snips the umbilical cord and smacks us on the rear end, and we take in our first gulp of air and we enter this consciousness. And we leave the consciousness of the protective environment of our mother's amniotic fluid and her uterus. And all of a sudden we are awakened and into a consciousness of being a human being. At that moment, all of our neurological structures are, as we say, in a very immature state of existence. At that moment, all the gravitational pull of all those planets you're looking at right now, all the chemical interaction of those planets, all the solar radiation that's picked up by Mercury and Mars and Venus that injects itself into your immature neurological structure, creates all your patterning, your likes, your dislikes, your proclivities, your talents, your misgivings, everything about you. Now, Isaac Newton proved that any object that has mass and density has a gravitational pull. So I'm going to pull up another little chart here, which I think says it pretty reasonably. We've got a body that's made up of 80% fluids, right? Those fluids are all subjected to the effects of gravity. Those fluids are things like blood, lymphatic fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, which is what encases the brain and the spinal cord. And that is probably one of the most important structures, one of the most important fluids in the body, because we know that one of the smallest objects in our solar system, and I just showed you a picture of the solar system, one of the smallest objects in the solar system, our moon, has the effect of raising the water level on our planet 6 to 12 feet every day. Now, the amazing thing is the moon's size by comparison to something like Jupiter is about like comparing the grain of sand to a basketball. Now, I know you can see Jupiter and I know you can see the Earth on this picture, but I doubt very seriously you can see that tiny little dot.
That little
dot,
white dot between them, I can see a little, very tiny white dot.
right, that dot represents the grain of sand that is our moon, okay? So I'm gonna pull this down for a moment. And that moon has the ability to change the fluids on our planet 6 to 12 feet every day, twice a day. It's called the high and low tide. Just think about something that's 500,000 times the size of that and what it does to our neurological structures, all being governed and protected by that cerebral spinal fluid at that moment when the doctor smacks you on the bottom and you gulp in your first breath of air, and all that influence is infused into your immature neurological structure. That is the scientific explanation as to why astrology affects us and is a credible science. You know, most powerful governments around the world are using astrology as a way of gaining an advantage over their rivaling governments. In 1979, Nancy Reagan got Ronald Reagan elected because she knew during that year Ronnie's Jupiter was aligning with Mars. This is considered one of the most powerful arrangements in all of astrology. In fact, it's so powerful that one of the most famous songs about astrology, Age of Aquarius, the first line of the song is when the moon is in the seven skies and when Jupiter aligns with Mars, because we know when Jupiter aligns with Mars, your world is your oyster. And that's what happened to Reagan in 1980 when he was elected president.
Really? I want mine. I want mine to align. You tell me when that's going to happen for me, Scott, and that'll be exciting. And for Linda. I think Linda wants to know as well.
Absolutely. So what we'll do is, the last thing we'll talk about is what's going on currently, and then we'll take a quick dive into both your chart, Lisa, and Linda's as well. Well,
yes, I'm glad that you're going to be speaking about what's going on currently, because I know that, you know, with what I do, and you know, in your world and my world, there is so much energy shifting right now. I do healings with some amazing healers almost daily to help, you know, help that for the planet and shift things and do things. And so I'm very well aware, and I think people are really struggling with different things right now of not knowing what's going through them, physical pain, uncertainty, fear. And so please share with us, like, what currently is going on.
Okay,
so people can have a better understanding.
Yeah, you guys got to fasten your seatbelts. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm buckling mine right now.
It's an incredibly active sky, and it's an incredibly active solar system right now. You know, one of the beautiful utilizations of astrology and Ayurveda is, as the Kenny Rogers song says, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Well, we're in a hold them right now phase, and there's a reason why. The configuration that's going on in the universe right now in our solar system is so dramatic and so incredibly convoluted that we haven't seen an arrangement like this in the last 600 years. The last time we had something this transformative, and it has to do with the placement of Saturn, the planet of teaching us great lessons, and Pluto, the sign of death and rebirth. The last time we had these two aligned the way they are and retrograding, which I'll explain in a couple of minutes, along with 4 other planets that are retrograding. This is so unique. The last time we saw anything like this was 600 years ago when Martin Luther stamped the Reformation on the front of the Catholic Church and said no more, because we're experiencing the Pluto death of an old paradigm and experiencing the correction through Saturn. And now nothing, as we know, will ever be the same. You know, up until this pandemic hit, I had 6 lectures all prepared, all of them gone. But you know what? With Carol's help and my other assistant, April, we've been doing a lot of this on Zoom. That is one version of an old paradigm or an old concept ending and a new one taking its place. It's a small example. Carol and I, when we do our Zoom, our conferences, our Zoom conferences on Fridays, the last time we did it, we asked people to all come forward. I guess there's like about 15 or 20 people, and right, they were all talking about the ways their bodies and their lives and their careers and their relationships, everything has been transformed. So here's what's going on, and it has a little bit to do with you ladies.
Okay.
The big issue is that we are currently sandwiched between 3 full moons. There's a full moon happening right now, and Lisa, it's happening in 3 days in the sign of Cancer, which is going to affect you because, Lisa, your Mars and Jupiter were in the sign of Cancer when you were born. So I'm going to pull back Miss Linda's and make some general references, because I think one of the beauties of this whole concept is to be able to not only look at the individual. Like, I know in 2 minutes when I get somebody come in and they have Saturn in Taurus that they invariably have thyroid problems or hypothyroid. It's the same thing 30 years in a row, over and over again. You see the same thing, you know, without question. Okay, what were we doing? What's going on now? So there are 6 planets retrograding. Do either of you guys know what a retrograde is in astrology?
Yes.
You do. Linda, can you tell us what your version of a retrograde is? I'd love to hear
Big trouble.
it. What actually astronomically
I don't know.
Okay, so that's good though, Linda, because you know that during a retrograde, and I think you're probably only referencing one type of retrograde, which is when Mercury goes retrograde. The simplest explanation of a retrograde is this. We all believe that the planets are orbiting around the sun in a circular fashion. This is true, but they're really not actually circular. They're more elliptical, like oblong. So what that produces is periods where the planet is far from the sun. So much so that it actually appears to us when it's far away from us that the planet is slowing down. In many cases, they believe when they take photographs of it that it actually reversed its path, but it's an illusion. However, the way it manifests in our bodies is by being a retrograde and moving backwards. Now, the most popular retrograde that everybody knows about is Mercury retrograde. 3 times a year for 2.5 weeks, this planet stops and is very far from us and appears to be going backwards. During this time, we experience, without question, electrical problems. I'm already experiencing it now because we're in the shadow period of the retrograde is about to happen in 3 days. But we're getting a full dose of it already, so watch out for your electronic stuff. But the real productive way to deal with a Mercury retrograde is to exactly that, look back over your life. We're not supposed to make any decisions having to do with permanency during a Mercury retrograde. Certain retrogrades affect us more than others. Now, I'm going to tell you, Lisa, this is one that can have an effect on you. And it doesn't have to be bad. It can be good. It's a time to review. But it's Mercury, the moon, the full moon that's going to happen at the same time as Mercury in retrograde. The moon is in Cancer. That's a lot of sensitivity. And Lisa's got her Mars and Jupiter in Cancer. So we know that that's an area of your activation in your career where you might want to be looking back at things. Look, this is a very, very, very layered science, and no one is asking everybody to get the whole concept right off the bat. We're just looking for general ideas of what to do, like Mercury retrograde. Well, guess what, ladies? Venus, the planet of love, is currently retrograding also. Now,
yes, it is.
Yes, so you guys have heard this. Lisa, we talked about this during your reading last week. We were saying that Venus, the planet of love, and remember, Venus is very close to the Earth. It's very large, and it's got a lot of gravity, and it affected us. And it's affecting everybody right now. Venus is in the sign of Gemini, which means that our relationships and our paths towards communication and our love and romance is going to have a lot of heady discussion. What does heady discussion mean? A lot of cerebral activity, a lot of intellectual connection. However, it's retrograding. So if you plug in my little concept of what each planet means and then look at what a retrograde means, you can kind of work backwards through your own little algorithm and say, well, Venus, the planet of relationships and love and romance, and it's in Gemini, but it's retrograding. We got to look back intellectually at the stuff that we had from previous loves and learn our lessons. Also, during a Venus retrograde, we definitely have old loves coming back into our lives, even trying to just say hi or just saying I was thinking about you. It's happened to me twice since this Venus retrograde started. Carol's here. She's nodding. She probably had about 10 of her ex-boyfriends or ex-husbands try to reach her.
Yeah, I had a call from an ex of like 12 years ago, just out of the blue, asking, about me kind of thing. So that did happen.
Amazing.
So I have a question. When Venus is in retrograde, is it a good time to begin a relationship, or is it a time to hold them, as you would say?
Excellent question. We were just listening to one of the world's renowned astrologers about this very question. Okay. Generally, we would say no, unless you expect it to have a level of impermanence. However, many people were born during a Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde. If you were, it can have a lot of staying power. So that's why, and as we're going to shift now over to the personal elements, it's so important to have your chart done. This is why we want to have people contact us and we'll figure out, we'll do their entire astrological chart and their Ayurvedic profile. Now, for you, you have Venus in Leo. Lisa, we talked about this. Generally speaking, on an individual level, Venus is how you give
I
love.
thought Venus was in Libra for me. No?
No, sweetie, your moon is in Libra. Venus
Okay.
is
You're right.
in
You're right.
6
I was
degrees
thinking my
Leo.
moon. You're right.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They sound similar.
Mhm.
So because your Venus is in Leo, remember I said the way you show love to people is you do it like a Leo. How does a Leo show love? A Leo grabs hold of the whole pride. It says, I'm going to feed everybody. It says, I'm going to protect everybody. I'm going to make sure everybody is cared for, and then I'm going to snuggle and sleep with you all for like 23 out of 24 hours. That's what Mama Leo does.
How do you know me so well?
I know. I like that. I like that about you. Now, on an individual level, Lisa, before we go to Linda, I want to just explain Saturn. Now, Saturn is one of my favorites because as a physician and a diagnostician, Saturn is that planet that talks about how we're restricting ourselves. And the reason I'm picking on you right now is because you and I both have Saturn in Pisces. Now, Saturn is kind of like the burner that a kid puts his hand on and he burns his hand. He says, oh, bad burner, I got burned. But no, that's a good burner because that lesson is going to stay with you for life. You know hot things are going to burn you. So Saturn seems like kind of like a bitch of the universe at first, but then later on, your application of the lesson becomes so incredibly important. Now, for you and me, kiddo, with the people with the Saturn in Pisces, we can just very simple, for a simplified version of astrology, just look at the misuses of energy of that sign. Now, the nice things about Pisces are, that's my sun sign, is we're healing. We're all about wisdom and understanding the laws of the universe. We do it very intuitively. Casey, Nostradamus, all the great intuitives, Einstein, all Pisces, because they intuitively knew these things. Yes, it's great to have clinical experience, but without intuition and wisdom from the universe, a lot of it is just clinical jargon and non-applicable. So those are nice things about Pisces, but we have it in Saturn. So what are the bad things about Pisces? Well, this is where it gets really interesting from a diagnostic standpoint. Pisces is one of the 3 very kapha signs. Remember, Linda, the kapha sign was the person who's relaxed and kind of slow and paced. But because Pisces can be slow and relaxed, we can also fall out of balance and predispose ourselves to issues of laziness, weight gain. We can also predispose ourselves to inertia problems. The big problem with Pisces at its worst, this is Pisces burning its hand on the burner and also biting its own tail, which is the symbol of Pisces, is that people with Saturn in Pisces have what's known as, what I like to refer to as attachment disorder. Now, attachment disorder means we fall in love very easily and we stay in love long after we should have been out of love. And one of the problems with that is that we live in a utopian existence. That's why Pisces at its worst tends to be the drug addicts, the escapists who fall into alcoholism or fall into food or television or sleeping or depression or whatever it is as a way of substance dealing. We don't want a substance deal. So to recognize this about ourselves is a way to mitigate this from happening, and you can eliminate a massive amount of inflammation in your physical body by understanding your Saturn placement. So Lisa, I never got a chance to talk about this with you during your reading, but does this resonate a little bit with you?
Yes, I can. As you know, Scott, I'm a Leo, so I think my sun sign. People think I want to be out in front, and you kind of explained that to me the way the signs in the houses that's not really me. I tend to be a little more shy, not shy, but certainly modest, and don't like to be in front. I don't like to get the job done. But yes, I feel, for me personally, that if I feel, because I'm an empath, right? So I feel everybody's energy. And as you mentioned, I love to take care of everybody and feed them and love them. And that's just who I am. But I also need to retreat because as an empath, I feel everybody's energy. And so sometimes I just need to go home and just be alone and just like recover, so to speak.
That's brilliant. Now we can really dive into the individuality of your chart because you have so many aspects that are saying one thing that contradicting another thing. Now, you don't have to use these as a source of confusion. You can use them as an addition to all your tools in your arsenal. I always like to say there are no oars in my life. Oars are for rowboats. There are only ants. So you have a north node in Taurus, which the north node represents your karmic direction. So that's only the good stuff of Taurus. Even though Taurus is another one of those kapha signs, at its best, Taurus is the hardest worker. Taurus is the person who creates foundation. Now you're here to create security and foundation in your life. I love the North Node in Taurus with the Sun in Leo because those two energies are very similar. Leo likes to kind of go slow and methodical and take care of everybody and create security. So does Taurus. They do it a little bit differently. All right, so let's move along with your chart. We're going to, since we went here anyway, let's go to the moon. The moon is becoming incredibly important because in the next 3 days, we're going to experience the second full moon this month in the sign of Cancer. Now we know when a moon is full, hey, look, you know, if you want to search for the scientific efficacy of this concept, all you have to do is go to police files. Police files very, absolutely, very clearly, every full moon, there's no question, violent crimes and offenses go through the roof compared to periods when the moon is not full. Why? Because
emergency rooms are full. And I have had that debate with friends of mine that are very religious. I said, how can you justify why the emergency rooms are full on the full moons? Oh, there's no validity to that. So I love that you said that.
Absolutely. And you know what? These are people that we take with a grain of salt because they put their faith in the scriptures without understanding how we really got here and understanding the true scientific explanation of these things. So we take them with a grain of salt, we say prayers and send them towards the light. Now back to the moon. The moon is in Libra, so the moon represents that beautiful celestial object in the universe that represents the things you're dreaming about. Lisa, having 27 degrees of Libra, dreams about making the world a beautiful place and having only the most beautiful people around her because that's Libra. She also dreams of having equity in the universe because your moon is in Libra, and that is the sign of Libra, is the scale, because it always weighs one versus the other. I don't really see you being a big dreamer about making sure there's equity, although wait a second, I take that back. The work that you're doing actually is creating great equity on the planet. But I do see you dreaming of beauty, your own beauty, your beauty in your partner, your beauty in your children, and your beauty in your environment around you. That is quintessential moon in Libra.
Yes, I love I was just sharing before we started recording off air with Linda that, you know, I love being outdoors. I love the beauty of the Northwest, of the oceans. When I was in California, I love beauty around me. It just feels like it's supposed to be there.
Absolutely. And this is something foundational that was created at the moment you were born. It's not going to change. Now, what you can do is you can experience heightened levels of it. Now, remember the Ayurveda before? We were talking about the middle category, the middle dosha. That is that yogi girl that has the yoga pants on, the mat under her arm, and she lives on quinoa and she lives in an etheric place. Well, the air signs like Libra have a lot of that Vata energy, which is great because Vata is where creativity comes from. And Lisa, we know, even though you're tiny, but you're big mama because you have all that Leo energy in you. You also have tremendous creativity, and that's why you're successful with living with Lisa, because you do have that creative Libran Vata energy. Now, I'm going to just jump right to your Mars, and the reason why is because we want to leave a little time for Linda to show the examples here of how this is so incredibly efficient. Mars. Does anybody know anything about Mars on an astronomical or scientific level?
I don't really know much about Mars other than the book, Women Are From Mars or Men Are From Venus or something. That's about all I know, Scott, on that one.
That's wonderful. Great reference. Mars, other than the moon, is the closest celestial object that we have to the universe. It is very large. It is very magnetic. It's filled with all kinds of ionized elements like copper and selenium and iodine and what else is it loaded with? A lot of copper. Now this produces a tremendous amount of ionized energy that hits the Earth, and it's very big and it's very close. So Mars is one of the few planets that I like to refer to because we do so much karmic path and career counseling for our clients. Mars, because of its proximity and size, controls three things in our lives. It controls the way we fight. Mars was the Roman god of war, preceded by Ares, which is the same god in Greek mythology, which is the god of war also. I can't tell you about people who have Mars in Aries, but thank God you have Mars in Cancer. So Mars represents how you fight. Mars represents your career path. Mars also produces a lot of energy because it's a testosterone related male energy. It's very yang, is how we approach our approach to sexuality, because that's the physical male energy in Ayurvedic and Vedic philosophy. Well, sweetie, you have Mars in Cancer, which is a very interesting configuration because Mars is not in its home place when it has a passive sign like Cancer. However, I personally love people who have Mars in Cancer. You know why?
Why? I'm afraid to ask.
Because when it comes to a badass fight, you're a gentle spirit, and you usually opt for retreating more than anything else. But the sign of the crab is the sign of the crab for a reason, and it has a couple of claws. So they retreat, go to the bottom of the ocean, wait for all the turbulence on the top of the ocean to kind of mellow out. And then if it gets really upset, it's going to come up and snip your finger off. Preferably, it'll just stay in a quiet, receded mode. So that's why I like it, because people who have an aggressive Pitta fire sign like Leo, let me see where.
Just me.
Ah, okay, good. We're going to make a shift over to Linda, because guess where Linda's Mars is?
Leo.
Oh, Linda, you take no prisoners, kiddo. You got Mars in Leo, 28 degrees. It's getting ready to shift into Virgo, so you can be very intellectual in your fight mechanism. I have Mars in Virgo. Carol's going to smile at this because she knows when I get angry, as many years as I played contact sports, I still can rip somebody to shreds with intellect and words, because Virgo is the sign of the intellect. Virgo is the sign of the Vestal Virgin, who's very quiet with their sexuality. When you have a cuspy 28 degrees of Leo in Mars in Leo, you can go either way, Linda. When it comes to a fight, you could be Big Mama and tear everybody. I saw a nature special where these two lionesses were fighting. I have never seen anything as scary as this in my life. It was like two tan female demons tearing the fur out of each other with plumes of dust. That's what I visualize when I see Mars and Leo. However, there's only 30-degree chance for you to have Mars and Leo, and you're 1 degree away from being out of Mars and Leo into Virgo. So this is where astrology gets a little bit layered. It's kind of like going from astrology 101 into like 103. When you have 28 degrees of Mars and Leo, you're getting ready to go into Mars and Virgo, which means that you are bringing in some of that intellectual energy. So I imagine when you do fight, even though you have the ability to tear the other person to shreds with your claws, you probably more often opt for a more intellectual approach, which is fairness and equity. But also, when we have Mars energy, we lose our ability to stay present and we go into anger. You can probably, very much like myself, tear somebody to shreds with your intellect and your words. If you don't do it, the propensity is there, and all you do is receive it and we let it go. How do we use this concept as a way of making our lives better? Well, Mars and Saturn produce inflammation in our body. So the first step here is the idea of understanding what our tendencies are. I'm very careful now about getting into a situation where I say the wrong thing to somebody. So I do what I do in my practice, which is I do my get present-minded 3-breath technique, which is simply, before you respond, Scott, take 3 deep breaths and let's look at the color or the shape of whatever's in front of you. Do you guys know that 90% of the time, 91% of the time, in fact, when you do the 3-breath technique, the reaction that you are going to do is different than the action you actually end up doing. So, yep, so you're nodding, that's good.
What do you mean by, okay, so explain to our audience a 3-breath technique, just in case they don't know what that is.
Okay, so you just call me an egotistical pompous ass, right? And my next response is I want to cut you down with intellect and tell you that, you know, whatever it is that I'm feeling about you. And I say it very gently and passively, but it's passively aggressive. Instead of me doing that, I say, you know what, Scott, you can do that if you want, under one condition. 3 deep breaths where we oxygenate the lowest of the 3 lobes of our lungs. Yogic breath against resistance. Another one. And then a 3rd time. And then I look in front of me and I look at the shape of this beautiful computer and I get present and I say, instead of cutting you down, I say, Lisa, why did you just say that? See, that's the three breath
So
technique.
sweet. Scott, I love you.
Love you too, man.
It worked well. It worked very well.
Thank you. Yeah. So, you know, one of the questions that you asked me this week, Lisa, was what is different about this healing concept? Well, there's so many things that are different, and there's so many things that are so progressive. I'm just a messenger. I've had the good fortune of being raised by a yogi, getting the opportunity to go through, you know, medical training and 30 years of practice and working under the Edgar Cayce Foundation. But one of the things I'm really proud of is my personal approach towards love and romance. I diagnose people all day long, and we use this all day long for health issues. But one of the great lectures and workshops that we do is astrology and Ayurveda for love and romance. Well, what I wanted to say is I think many of us and many of your audience, because they tend to be from the more healing metaphysical community, have probably read the book, the 5 Love Languages. Are you guys familiar with that book?
Oh yeah, I've done a workshop with my girlfriends with that book.
Okay, well, I hope this doesn't dispel it, because that 5 love language concept is wonderful. Things like that book is brilliant because it evaluates how we give and how we receive love. The problem with it is it's only 5 languages, and we're much more diverse than that. Not only that, we usually have a couple of languages. Like, for instance, I like physical touch. I'm a chiropractor. I touch people, and I like to give quality time. Those are two good love delivery methods. I also like when somebody touches me on the shoulder and does good communication, which I guess will fall under the quality time thing. So those are my 2 love and receptivity and delivery systems.
Mine as well.
What are
You pegged mine too as well. Those are my 2
good.
favorites.
Linda, how about you? Do you know your love, receptivity, and delivery languages?
No, I do not. No.
Okay, good. Don't do it. I'm going to tell you based on astrology. So in my concept, instead of 5 languages of love, of how we give and receive love, gifts, acts of service, quality time, whatever they are, we actually have 12 languages of love. And we have 2 planets, one that gives love and one is asking us how we receive love. Let's go to Linda, since Lisa already did your chart. So Linda has a moon in Pisces, one of my favorites. Guess how you give love? Excuse me, how you receive love. The moon is what your heart is desiring. Remember, that's emotions. So in your areas of love and close personal relationships, you would like to receive love very much like a Pisces. What does a Pisces want? Pisces wants there just to be solidarity and hand-holding of love. We're the love sign. That's my sun sign. It's your moon sign. The other thing is Pisces likes to heal with metaphysical understanding. That's the sign of the metaphysician, Pisces. It's what you're craving, not only in a man, but in a partner and children around you and all the people in your loving circle. These are the things you wish to receive. Remember, moon is what you dream about when you have that quiet moment and you're looking out the window and you're looking at the rainstorm and you're thinking about, what is it I really want? Well, Linda, generally speaking, your moon sign is asking to be involved in metaphysics and healing. It's also asking for people who are around you to be of that ilk. Now, in one of the lectures that we've done recently, I did with this woman who has a moon in Pisces. She tells a great story. She talks about how she had a life of Riley. She was raised as a princess in Venezuela. She had married a guy who gave her tons of money. She created her own beautiful gardens in her backyard, and she traveled all over the world, but she was miserable. Because you know why? Her partner was a very earthbound individual, didn't have any understanding of metaphysics or healing. In fact, he denounced all of it. So she was in a miserable marriage, even though she had everything you would think you would want. Well, she said the day changed when she learned about her moon energy, and her moon was in Pisces. She started to choose people that she loved. They all had more metaphysical energy about them. So the moon sign, like you, does very well with people who have a sun or rising sign in either Pisces or Scorpio or Aquarius or Gemini, something mercurial and that has that intellectual energy of healing in the universe. Now that's your love receptivity language. I want to receive love with love, hey, look, you know, people who have a moon in Capricorn, they don't care about hand holding. They care about a person coming into their life is all about numbers and making money. But you're not like that. You have a moon in Pisces, which wants to share love, share healing, explore the metaphysical wonders of the universe, and speak and stay in that language. Now is that accurate?
Yes.
Now you like to give love. Guess what planet is the way you give love? Venus. That other planet on the other side of the earth, with Mars on one side and Venus on the other. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. How does the Venusian women give love? Well, your Venus is in 8 degrees of the sign of Cancer. How does a woman who's got Venus in Cancer give love? Well, Cancers, I was married to a Cancer for 13 years, and I love the Cancerian energy. That was a sun sign, but the Venus sign says your love language of how you give love is through Cancer, which is providing emotional support, always being a great listener, always trying to find a way to avoid conflict. It's a very non-conflict sign, and it's a very yin female sign. So there's like a lot of love, and it's also, it's between Leo and Cancer, they're the two most maternal signs in the zodiac. So Venus in Cancer likes to mother everybody. You can also be careful here because you can also promote being a baby. You know, you and them. It's very loving, and it's your language of love. Now, Lisa has a different love language. She has Venus in Leo. It's not that much different, but she gives love by being the maternal protector and provider and making sure everybody's cared for and protected. Venus in Leo and Venus in Cancer are very similar. You both have very similar love languages. Venus in Leo can be a little bit more aggressive. And also, we talked about Lisa's moon receptivity is in the sign of Libra. So you like to create beauty as compared to Miss Moon in Pisces with Linda, who likes to receive everything in a metaphysical way. Now, I know this is a lot of information, so you guys can ask a question because I don't know how much time we have left, but we want to talk about the correlation between this and Ayurveda and health afterwards. So do you guys have
Linda, do you have any questions, my dear?
No. Absorb it. No, it's great.
I know it's so great information. I agree with everything you said, and I am everybody knows me as the mom, right? The maternal. I want everybody's children are my children. I want to love them, take care of them, feed them. You know, I'm just that girl.
That's awesome. You guys have a lot of similarity. You guys are tremendous friends. I love the friendship that takes place with people with a lot of Leo and Cancer. And you two are loaded. If I pan back and looked at the predominant part of your charts, Linda, you without question are largely Leo, except that Jupiter is in Cancer and your Venus is in Cancer. Those are two key players. And Lisa, you have Mercury in Leo, Venus in Leo, but Mars and Jupiter in Cancer also. So there's tremendous overlap. You both have your abundance planet in the sensitive sign of Cancer. So that is Jupiter. We didn't talk about it, but Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, and it reflects where do you experience of great abundance. Well, because you both have Jupiter in Cancer, Lisa, your Cancer is at 23 degrees. It's very much in the middle of that swedge. And Linda, you have 11 degrees, very much. You're both very much well ensconced in your Jupiter in Cancer. I wasn't going to go over this. I was going to talk about health, but since I'm on the subject, Jupiter represents how do you experience joy in your life. Okay? Since you both have Jupiter in Cancer, you both experience joy with tremendous sensitivity. What's the MO on Cancer? Sensitive. And protective.
Yes.
And caring.
I like Cancers. I do. I think they're very sweet. Very sweet.
So I guess the last thing we can talk about, I don't know, how much time do we have, Lisa?
As much as you'd like.
Okay. I got about another 15 minutes, I think.
Okay.
But I want to get to some of the other things that are happening currently. But I'll answer a question that's not being asked yet, and that is, why do we use astrology as such a reliable source for people's health? Well, the reason why is because we look at Saturn and Mars. those two planets, if we could take those two planets out of our chart and out of our natal chart, we would be left with nothing but happiness, because those are the two challenge planets that cause us to experience inflammation. I can't tell you how many times we look at somebody's Ayurvedic sign in Saturn, like Pisces. Lisa, you have Saturn in Pisces. Saturn represents how we hurt ourselves. Pisces is the escapist and hides. And this is a way that you hurt yourself. So the irony behind your chart is, Lisa, that you have things that make hiding actually productive. I wouldn't say hiding, but being somewhat reclusive and protective.
Right.
Yet there's an element to it that if it goes too far because of that Saturn in Pisces, you're going to create inflammation and not be doing yourself a great service. So with your moon in Libra, your ability to think and emotionally feel balance, how do you balance when reclusivity has become out of balance for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're absolutely right, is that I'm alone. So I spend a lot of time alone. And then when I go out, and I force myself to go out actually, because it can go from being alone and thinking and being productive to complete isolation. And then it can almost become fearful to go out just because I've been alone and in so long. So I force myself to enjoy the outdoors, be one with nature, because that is my happy, peaceful place. And it really does regrow me a little bit, right? It re-energizes me. And honestly, Scott, for me, I love people, I love humanity, but I do need time to recover when I am out in public, because as an empath, I feel so much, right? So I enjoy that recovery time.
Absolutely. Your Mars, your physical body, is represented by your rising and your Mars sign. Now, we didn't even talk about this, but the rising sign, which is one of the three most important parts of your astral triangle, it's a term that we kind of coined here. Sun, moon, and rising occupies 65% of who you are, is made up of your sun and your moon and your rising. Now, your rising represents the physical body. Imagine these three exist in the solar system as the sun, the moon, and the earth sign. We know your moon sign is in Libra, and we know the sun is in Leo, but your rising sign represents your physical earthbound body, and that's in the sign of Scorpio. The only thing more secretive and reclusive than Cancer is probably Scorpio. So your physical body is, I look at Carol, who's like basically a model. And Lisa, I'm giving away your cards here because you don't show everybody, but it's like stunningly beautiful. I mean, really attractive. And I say that as a staunch heterosexual male. But to have that rising sign in Scorpio makes your body have a natural proclivity towards protection, secrecy, and kind of hiding, which
modesty, yes.
It's incredibly modest, but there's no but. I can't. I just love beauty, so I'm asking for you girls to show your beauty more. But I am
going to start doing a TV show, Scott. So I'm just holding on to it as long as I can. It's hard to do a TV show without showing yourself. You remember the old Tim the tool guy and his neighbor Wilson never showed his face? I'm like, can't I just come on with a mask every day and never really show all of me, and then I would just feel a little more private. So, I'm working on it, but thank you.
Yeah. You know what, with you guys, Mars, your activation planet, is in a very secretive, protective, recessive sign of Cancer, and you're rising in Scorpio. We want to be aware of these things. And I don't know whether it's up to me or it's up to you really to decide when it's out of balance and when it's in balance. I believe you're so in touch and so etheric, Lisa, that when you're falling out of balance. I heard your description of when you go out and it's becoming too much. Don't forget, Saturn, the way you cripple yourself in Pisces, is also a reclusive sign, which will stay inside with TV and meditation and food and alcohol and stuff, whatever your choice of escapism is. Hopefully it's something productive. Like I've opted for 7 days a week of 3-hour workouts as my form of hiding. So that's my Saturn in Pisces being understood and now gearing it towards something productive rather.
Right.
So,
mine's learning or working too much, evidently. Be on the computer too much, right?
Right. So if Linda or you, Lisa, do you guys have any questions about your chart? I know Linda, you might have some, but before we close out and talk about what's going on presently in our very convoluted sky, Linda, do you have any questions, whether in the area of health or love and romance or relationships or career or karmic path, that you'd like to ask based on your chart?
Only about 100.
Okay, start with the most important one. Nice, pretty.
So like part two is what you're saying, Linda, part two of the show?
Right. Well, I'll just call the office and book an appointment.
Oh, that would be lovely. Hey, can I give my contact information out? So or were you going to do that at another time, Lisa?
No, I would love you to say it. And then whatever, we will also post it under, when we post the show, we'll post it there so people can contact you. I think it's really important that people have this knowledge. And I think you are one of a kind, Scott. We love you. So of course we want your information out there. So feel free to share it.
Okay, thank you. So if any of your group want to get in touch to have a reading, it's usually about an hour and a half, and we provide a complimentary follow-up period consultation with it the following week. I did it with Lisa, Linda, as a way of seeing if a lot of the information that we gave, first of all, this is just a lot. This is a lot for anybody to handle. But through this process, we have a form that we do for all of our clients, which allows us to see all of their planetary arrangements, your Ayurvedic profile. I won't show your birth date, but we will show that there's a whole section of suggestions that we want to see in about a week if you're able to implement, because we do so many relationship and health readings. Now, you guys can reach me at my office. My office number is area code 631-375-8702. And once again, that number is 631-375-8702. And you can go on my website to learn a little bit more about upcoming events and what it is that we actually do. And that website is www.ask-drscott.com. www.ask-drscott. So as a way of bringing this home, let's just talk about what we brought up earlier, if that's okay, about what's going on in the universe. Now, remember, we've made a little point of talking about what Saturn means to our individual charts. Now we're going to talk about what brought on this freakishly unusual time that we're in. Saturn, up until the pandemic, had been in the sign of Capricorn. For 2.5 years, it stays in the sign of Capricorn. What is Capricorn? Well, remember, Saturn takes a lot of the bad stuff of that sign and makes us learn the lesson. Well, Capricorn is all about finances. They are the natural bookkeepers of the zodiac. Capricorn is the skeletal structure of all of our concepts and all of our systems. Our governmental system has a skeletal structure. Our tax system has a skeletal structure. Our social system has a skeletal structure. So for 2.5 years during this presidency, we have slowly been doing pretty much what he said as far as draining the swamp, but on an astrological level. And I'm completely apolitical. I'm a practicing Hindu and Buddhist, so I don't adhere to any political system, but I do look to see if our current leaders are exercising the prophecies and the predictions based on the astrological reads on these things. And he is without question, or that administration is without question, breaking down the typical structure of our tax system, our political system, and our social system. Now get this, at the beginning of the paradigm, at the beginning of the pandemic, the period of Saturn, the lesson teacher, left Capricorn and went into the sign of Aquarius. Now, this is where it gets so specific and predictable. When Saturn, the teacher and the harsh, like ruler by a nun on the back of our wrist, teacher of the zodiac, left Capricorn and went into Aquarius. Well, if Saturn is restricting everything it touches to teach us a lesson, guess what Aquarius is? Aquarius is the humanitarian social butterfly. And when the pandemic hit, Saturn squeezed Aquarius and said, no way, you're all going into isolation. So that lasted until Saturn was supposed to stay in Aquarius for 2.5 years, but what it did was around the time of the pandemic, around the time of Easter Sunday, it left Aquarius and retrograded back into Capricorn. Guess what happened on Easter Sunday? Everybody started to flip out and say, we're destroying our economy. We have to start opening up. And everybody started to come out because Saturn let go of its stranglehold on Aquarius and went back into Capricorn. It's only going to do this for a little while longer, maybe until the fall or actually into the winter. And then now that it's back in Capricorn, we're watching the numbers go back up because everybody's going out and going, yay, I can go outside. Saturn's not strangling Aquarius anymore, so I can go outside again. Well, in this country, we're the only country where the numbers have stayed high. Italy, Poland, China, even China went down dramatically at like a 45-degree angle, because even though this happened with the astrological change, they don't have the sense of freedom that we have, that we protect our civil rights. So we say, ooh, no more Saturn in Aquarius. I want my civil rights back. Put Saturn back in Capricorn and work on deconstructing the structures of Capricorn. Well, it's coming back into Aquarius, and then we're going to all probably have to go into some kind of quasi-isolation again as this happens in the fall and winter time.
No, Scott, I need you to move the planets around. That's just not going to work.
Do you know how to mitigate this, Lisa? It's pretty funny, kiddo, I got to tell you, but you know how to mitigate it?
No, but I'm dying for you to tell me.
Just know it. Start with knowing it, and then go second step, love it, and make it yours. What you know intimately loses power over us.
Okay.
That's the first step. Now that you know that there's this lesson that needs to be taught about why, okay, Carol's sitting next to me. We did these Zoom conferences about what our lessons are as an attempt through our Zoom conferences to be able to mitigate and lessen the harshness of this lesson. I made everybody go around. Remember when we went around the room, we say, what are your lessons? What have your lessons been from this pandemic? Why don't you guys share with us a little bit about what your lessons have been from the pandemic?
It's interesting you say that, because I'm going to start doing a Living with COVID show. Yeah. For me, I believe it was brought on us to have tragic and separate people and break our economy. And there's so many things that I believe it was meant to do. But I think the good thing, the silver lining, has been that it has brought families closer. It has taken children out of what I consider to be an educational system that is certainly not for their best interest. So I think it leans more towards homeschooling. And I think for me, I feel it's very important for children to know the values of their family, not of a political agenda. So, I mean, that's just a couple for me that I have seen that have helped, I think.
That's tremendous. You went right past your individual correction into the universal one because of the work you do. Well, you also have Saturn in Pisces, which is all about serving, and learning the lesson. Now, Lisa, you said something really intriguing, like you force yourself to go out. I personally believe that during this period, that people who have Saturn, Cancer, or Scorpio, the three sensitive, reclusive water signs, will easily handle this pandemic. But it's not, if you have it in your Saturn, it's not necessarily serving you. So I believe you can neutralize a lot of this energy by forcing yourself to go out during this pandemic in the most safe and cautious way, of course. But like, that's a way of neutralizing the energy. Look, you know, our electron microscope proved at the end of the day, there's no such thing as matter. It's just a bunch of energy in certain, in certain bonds, in certain configurations. So if we know that we're nothing more than a sparkler at the 4th of July, and when one of those sparks lands on your hand, there's nothing there, we know we can change the pattern of the energy of that sparkler based on the magnets and the crystals and the things that we do to that energy. Right. We are the same way. You can change this energy by doing that, and by knowing some of the guidelines and some of the, some of the suggestions.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Linda, do you have anything you'd like to comment on, or any changes you've seen?
Well, I agree to all of that. Absolutely.
What has been your lesson, Linda, during this transformative time? What have you, because with the fact that Pluto, the death and rebirth sign, is in line with Saturn for the first time in 600 years, we know you've had plenty of lessons or at least realizations. Can you share what's happened over the period of the last 4 or 5 months?
Well, a big appreciation for being home, more time to meditate, to get into that, more time to just research, and I'm very much into quantum physics and spirituality, and I'm out of the box totally with all of that. So
100%, yeah, your chart says that you are completely emotionally driven by getting out of the box with Moon in Pisces.
and I joined a Power of 8 group, Women Taggart.
Oh,
So,
so
it's been interesting because there's so much more free time to appreciate the fact that when you do get to go out, how great it is.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
It's true.
I want to just touch on the last thing, and I'm going to use Carol as an example because she has the final sign of the zodiac in her North Node. So North Node, many people don't understand, but Lisa knows my mom. My mom is a renowned best-selling author. She wrote a bestseller called Why Are We Here? And it became a bestseller because it talked about the concept of the North Node energy. The North Node energy is that one aspect that you have to stretch the boundaries of understanding science with metaphysics. Now, astrology is very scientific. It affects neurological structures and fluids and body structures. It's very scientific. The North Node has always been thought to be this one arrangement where it's very etheric and very metaphysical, but we actually know the North Node is quite scientific, and here's how. The North Node is factored by the intersection points of the moon around the earth and the earth around the sun, and where they cross. One is the North Node and the other is the South Node. I know it's a lot of information, just say they're intersection points of key orbits in the solar system. Well, I was watching the Science Channel one night, and something amazing happened. I had an absolute epiphany. They were discussing what was necessary for planets in other galaxies, still part of our Milky Way, but billions and trillions of miles away. What was needed for them to sustain life on their planet? Well, we've come to the conclusion over many years that it has to do with the atmosphere. The atmosphere protects us, it insulates us, it allows us to create this greenhouse effect where we exude carbon dioxide and plants take it and recycle it back as oxygen and we keep breathing. And that atmosphere protects all these solar objects that are running through the solar system constantly. You look at other planets, they're nothing but craters. Well, because this atmosphere protects us from asteroids and keeps us alive. We know that the atmosphere is necessary, but what's keeping the atmosphere there? It's a magnetic energy created by what they're just realizing now, what astrologers call the North and South Node, but what astronomers refer to as the magnetic energy coming out of the North and the South poles of the Earth. So the North Node is that one area that reflects what we're supposed to do with our lives. North Node represents our karmic journey. And so what I thought would be fitting would be to end off with Carol's chart. She's a Scorpio sun, but she has Mars in Pisces, and she has my favorite sign, the final sign of the zodiac, North Node in Pisces, which means that the Pisces person, you have a lot of Pisces energy also, Linda, is here to change the world. And in order to do that, you have to understand your North Node. Her North Node being in Pisces means she's here to heal and develop concepts that have never been seen before. I have 4 planets in Pisces, so I'm very appreciative for that. Sometimes it can feel a little bit disempowering, but you have a moon in Pisces, Linda, which means emotionally, you're in this place of wanting to emotionally always change the world and make it this grandiose, new, better version of itself. So,
would you agree with that, Linda?
Oh, yes, I
Yes.
would.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, ladies, if you don't have any other questions, I think we're going to say bon voyage for the evening and welcome. your listening audience and your participants to please call our office here in Fort Lauderdale, and we'd be happy to look into your charts and do Ayurvedic profiles for y'all.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. You're always a wealth of knowledge. I just love having time with you and all your experience. And I know there's more shows that we need to do because this is just touching on them. So we'll do that as well. And Linda, thank you for joining us. It was lovely to have you. And it's fun. I love you both. It's just so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right. Bon voyage. Great to see you, ladies.
Thank you, doctor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Linda. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.